The last 4 years, Derrick Rose has played in 100 of a possible 312 games with the Bulls, which comes out to just 32%. Rose made it very clear during Monday's media day that his priority list starts with free agency in 2 years.
It's here, but when you talk about that much money, only thing you could do is prepare for it. We're trying to prepare not only myself, but my family, and doing this all for my son. Like I said, I'm thinking about his future. Even though we're all right, we're comfortable. When you talk about that X amount of dollars, I think it raised everyone's eyebrows. So there's nothing wrong with being over prepared.
Stephen A., are you okay with Derrick Rose talking about free agency right now?
No, I am not, to be quite honest with you. And I must confess to you that it's very, very difficult for me to talk about Derrick Rose in any negative kind of fashion, because as a basketball player representing the Chicago Bulls, if you get around him and you talk to him, he just seems like one of the nicest people in the world, to be quite honest with you. But when you listen to some of the comments that he makes, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Derrick Rose has been in the league for 6 years. A couple of years ago, obviously, he had that devastating knee injury. Skip Bayless, in the 2011-2012 season, he missed 43 games. 2012-2013, he was out the whole year. Okay, 2013-2014, he missed 72 of the 82 games. And last year, he missed another 31 games. We were just relieved to see him play in the playoffs. And the last time we saw him, he was getting outplayed by Matthew Dellavedova.
True.
So I'm sitting here and I'm saying, considering all of this and the fact that you got paid $93 million by the Chicago Bulls, I have no problem with him thinking about his future, thinking about the well-being of his family, etc. But you know something? We sit up here and let's think about the guys that we have been critical of in increments, in moments. Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, James Harden, not so much Kevin Durant, because we rarely say anything. I mean, who says anything negative about Kevin Durant? Carmelo Anthony. I mean, you look at these guys, Skip. They are rough riders. They go out there and compete and bring it every night. They don't cheat the fans. I don't care how much James Harden struggled the last time we saw him against Golden State. He played a hellacious game in Game 5 of that series, and there was games sporadically where he showed up. So yeah, he didn't have the kind of series his talents demand, but he didn't cheat anybody. You know what I'm saying? This guy goes out there, he performs. Kevin Durant, when healthy, is an elite performer. LeBron James, I mean, please, what else is there to say about this guy in terms of his effort? We all know that Kobe Bryant was only out, you know, for the last 2 years because of devastating injuries. If Kobe Bryant could have played with any of those injuries, he would have. This guy doesn't cheat the game. Dwayne Wade, despite his myriad of injuries, always found a way to be ready come playoff time. The list goes on and on and on. You don't hear them talking like this because they know if they go out there and perform, everything else will take care of itself. Yet somehow, some way, without performing, largely due to health, of course, Derrick Rose has missed a large chunk of the last 3 NBA seasons of his career while being paid in excess of $16-17 million each season. And he's talking about looking forward to free agency and his future with a couple of years left. It just seems to me that he doesn't appear to have the focus that an elite championship caliber player is supposed to have. I know he has the talent when healthy. I'm not questioning that. And I know he goes hard when he's out on the court. But this attitude that he seems to verbalize, if I'm the organization and I'm hearing that from him, I got to call him to the office and sit him down and have a long conversation with him about a fan base that's out there and about some rough riders who are his contemporaries in the NBA and say to him, do you see what they're doing? And at this juncture, they're enjoying more success than you. Do you not get it? Because he doesn't seem to get it right now. And I'm saddened by that, because I do believe, again, I don't know him personally, because I know he's had some issues, and I'm not here to comment about that. But the Derrick Rose that I know, that I've met, that I've spoken to in a Bulls uniform at the United Center, seems to be one of the nicest dudes I've ever met, and it's almost impossible to root against him. I just don't understand why he keeps saying this kind of stuff. Because if I'm that Chicago fan base, which is phenomenal,
it is,
I'm incredibly upset by these comments.
I am so with you and then some on this issue. And as you remember, I was a columnist at the Chicago Tribune. That was pre-Derrick Rose. But I have a feel for the city of Chicago. And the sad part of this ongoing story to me is that never has the city of Chicago more wanted to open its heart and embrace a young superstar than it did Derrick Rose. He is they. He was raised by them. He grew up in Chicago. He's one of their own, a native son. They loved him, and he can come off as such a sweet, good kid. Works hard, plays hard. We won an MVP, and it all seems so right. And then it started to go so wrong. And it just gets a little more wrong with each media session that Derrick does. And I don't understand it. I don't know who's advising him or not advising him. But just the mere prospect, after all that you detailed, after Derrick Rose over the last 3 years has made $17.6 million 3 years ago, then $18.9 million 2 years ago, I'm sorry, 1 year ago, and then now he's scheduled to make 20 this year, $20 million. And to your point, just to sum it up, over the last 4 years, he's played 100 of a possible 328 games. He's played 30% of the Bulls games over the last 4 years. And you're asking Bulls fans, and many of my friends are already done with Derrick Rose, but you're asking them to swallow this, that you need to think about leaving Chicago in 2 years, not next year, but in 2 years. You're just going to throw it out. Yeah, I got to think about leaving, going somewhere else for bigger money, because I got to make sure my son is comfortable. That's not going to fly in Chicago. You've made all that money for not much work, and you want to make sure your son is comfortable. Trust me, Stephen A., that won't play with the rich people up in Highland Park, north of Chicago. They won't swallow this. You just can't say that publicly. Not when they've hung with you as far as they can hang with you. They've gone right to the edge with you, and now you're saying, and this is my psychological, I'm going to play armchair psychologist. Derrick also indicated in that interview at another spot that he's got a little chip on his shoulder because he read and heard through the offseason that some Bulls fans don't think he's now healthy enough or will ever be healthy enough to have the same MVP-like impact he used to have. And he set up and said, hey, I'm still great. So he's going to take it out on those. I hope it's not Twitter people that he's reading, his Twitter responses. But he's going to take it out on them by dangling the prospect, I gotta position myself here. I might have to leave Chicago. You just can't say it because the bridge is already on fire and burned almost to the ground. And now you just poured gasoline on top of what's left of the bridge with the fire underneath it. I don't know what he's thinking, but this is going to do him in before you know it in Chicago, because there's not much love left for him.
Well, the thing about it is I think the love can easily be recaptured if he goes out there and perform, because by and large, they recognize him to be a nice kid, even though we need to stop calling him a kid. He turns 27, in a few days, to be honest with you. Yeah. But with that being said, he also needs to understand that in this world that we're living in, and you know how political I can get, Skip, in terms of just watching politics and things of that nature, paying attention to the economy, the job rate, labor participation, all of these different things. You signed a $93 million contract and you're talking about worrying about your kid. Well, somebody's going to ask you, what the hell are you doing with your money? What are you talking about? Now, granted, it's always more money to be made. Please don't get me wrong.
I get that.
And you know what a capitalist I am. If the money is out there to be made, go ahead and make it. But how is it that you have an issue looking forward to your future, acting as if you're worried when you're already collecting $93 million for 30% of the work that you were supposed to put in. So all of those things definitely resonates, man. And you got to wonder right now, Skip, I got to admit, I never thought I'd say this. You've got to wonder whether or not the Chicago Bulls should trade him. And I'm not talking about immediately. I'm talking about trade him when his value elevates, because if you're giving indications that you may not want to be here, and there's a place that you can go where we can get the right comparable kind of value for you, that is something they might want to consider, because he is being paid like a franchise player. But if he's not going to act like it, like somebody who wants to be the face of the franchise and to be here for years to come, it's Chicago, man. It's the house Jordan built. You got to get somebody in there that wants to be there.
I'm with you.
Can I ask one question before we go to break? Obviously, he's asked about free agency. How would you have liked to see him handle that? To just say, I'm not focused on that. We're trying to get past Cleveland, and I'm trying to stay healthy first. Just don't address it?
Absolutely, Molly. Absolutely, Molly, because there's no excuse for it, not only because it's 2 years away, but because of what you know you haven't been able to give due to injury. Considering that you homegrown, the level of affection you feel you have expressed that you have for the locals, because you are one of them. I didn't hear him talk about leaving, Skip. I heard him talking about free agency, looking forward to getting paid. But the first order of business is to produce. And you can't produce if you don't show up to work every day. It ain't his fault that he didn't show up to work, because obviously he got hurt. And that's legitimate.
I got it.
But you don't come off of that. Remember, we didn't see him injured and then he's back now talking. The last time we saw him, he was playing healthy and got outplayed by a third-string point guard named Matthew Dellavedova. Now, that's just embarrassing. That's just embarrassing.
Okay, so maybe not the right way to handle things there for Derrick Rose, even if it is some naivete with media savvy.